Welcome back to your nightmares, my children. This is Mr. Midnight speaking. I welcome you all to my humble abode. Today, we will look at 14 short, scary stories that will terrify you. They are short, sweet, but will leave you with a cold and scary heart. Let's begin. And always remember, the darkness always follows. I will now leave you with my narrator, so enjoy.
What's the most creepy thing that's happened to you while home alone? I'll go first. This is happening as I'm typing this. Keep that in mind. My sister and I are home alone at the moment. Normally, I have a lot of fun home alone with my sister because I get to browse the interwebs happily and ignore the outside world for a few hours. Everything was going okay for a while until I heard loud footsteps going down the stairs that are a few feet from my room. For clarification, me and my sister's rooms are upstairs. Her room is to the left of the stairs, about the same distance away from them as mine. My room is to the right of them. We're both in our rooms. She's watching TV, laying on her bed, and I'm here. Also, these footsteps were the loudest I've ever heard, almost as if something was being thrown down them. At first, I thought it was my sister walking down them, so I called out her name. No answer. Confused, I walked out of my room to check the stairs. No one was there. And I see my sister standing off to the left of them, just outside her room staring. I asked her why she didn't answer me when she went down, and swore up and down that it wasn't her. At that point, I was rather unnerved. My sister is not that good of a liar in the first place, and no way in hell was it any of my cats. I've lived with them for literally all my life, and never have I ever heard such loud footsteps from any cat we've ever owned. Seriously freaked out, I walk downstairs slowly. Generally, if I hear a noise coming from the house and I don't know the source, I grab a knife in case it's a zombie. Seeing nothing, I stop at the bottom of the stairs and jump on the last step to see what sound it made. I could not produce a sound as loud as the one we heard, so I was thoroughly convinced my sister couldn't do it. She's about 50 pounds lighter than I am. I went back in my room and waited for another sound. Eventually it came, and it freaked me out even further. But of course, I didn't want to freak out my sister, so I started joking with her about how she shouldn't walk so heavily on the stairs. She wasn't buying my fake cheesy grin, and neither was I. So now I'm sitting here, waiting for another one. This isn't paranormal, but it's the freakiest thing that's ever happened to me when I was home alone. A few years ago, when I was about 14 or 15, my parents went to see a movie and left me at home. My house faces a park, and people in the park can look into our kitchen. Around 9 p.m, a guy approaches the back door of my house and knocks. Because the door is French style, I can see through the windows, and this guy is not someone I know. He asks me if he can use the phone. I tell him that we don't have one and he can try the neighbors. The guy seems to leave, walks down the porch and into the darkness, and I return to my duties on the computer. I was sitting at a table surfing the internet when this happened. To my right was this window that is around the back of the house to access it. You need to be deliberately looking to go to this particular area of the house. I'm using the computer, minding my own business, when my dog, bless her little heart, bolts towards the window, barking and snarling. You know that moment when you know exactly what's waiting for you, but you refuse to believe that it could be true? I had that. I told her, "Lucy, get away from the window." She wouldn't stop barking. Tenaciously, I turned to look out the window. The guy was standing below the window, watching me. I shrieked and dove under the table, screaming for him to get the F away from me. The guy circled back around the house and stood on my porch outside the door. Eventually, I decided that being in his direct line of sight was a really bad idea. So I made a run for it and hid in the kitchen, and then a windowless bathroom. I sat in there for 2 hours, trying to calm myself down while talking to a friend on the phone, until my parents came home. I have no idea how long the guy stood there, but he was gone by the time my parents came home. To this day, I wonder what that guy wanted. I also wonder what would have happened if I let this guy into my house. Because this guy got into my yard through the park. We padlocked the fence. Even then, it took about a year for me to feel comfortable being home alone again. Even now though, I spend most of my time upstairs or hidden from view of the park when I'm home alone at night. This was about 6 months ago. I woke up in the middle of the night and didn't find it unusual. My neighbor's truck always wakes me up when he starts it about 4 a.m. and I always clearly hear him drive away, but the truck isn't running. So now I'm curious what woke me up. I open my eyes, look around for a second, and realize something isn't right. In the darkness, I manage to pick up some sort of movement near the open bedroom door. After a couple of seconds, I could swear that something is silhouetting against the white door in the very faint light. I froze for what felt like an hour and grabbed the pistol laying on my headboard, but realized I can't find the flashlight that normally sits next to it. Silhouette hasn't moved, and I'm pointing a loaded .45 at it, with a little doubt creeping into my mind since I have no light. Do I shoot and risk looking like a crazy shooting at shadows shapes? Or do I try to turn on the light? My blood pressure was so high I couldn't hear anything except thump, 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 and tunnel vision had kicked in. Finally said, F it, turn on the light that hangs over the headboard in as quick of a motion as I could. And the goddamn light bulb pops, burns out as soon as it comes on. Now I'm blind, and the adrenaline is really getting the best of me. At this point, I have still managed to control myself enough from shooting, but I have started thrashing violently while trying to get off the bed and put something between me and the horrible beast. Suddenly, my hands finds the flashlight that eluded me earlier, and I shine a piercing beam of light towards the door. Nothing. Get up, shaking, shivering, hot and cold, all at the same time. Look down the hallway with the light. Nothing. Spare bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchen, and even the horrifying basement are all clear. Any SWAT team would have recruited me after seeing me tactically clear those rooms. Relief starts to wash over my body as I head back to the kitchen to calm down. As the adrenaline subsides and bodily functions begin cooling down from red alert, I notice a refreshing, cool breeze, and to my horror, realize that the kitchen sliding door is wide open. The scariest thing that happened when I was alone was years ago. I was laying in bed, not quite asleep yet, when I felt like someone was in the room. At the doorway to my bedroom, I kept glancing over because it was really scaring me, and I kept feeling like it was a big tall man just standing there. Of course, I didn't see anything, but I was really psyching myself out. Suddenly, I felt like whoever it was had rushed at me, and I panicked and started flipping out. I started to think that maybe I was sleeping, or half asleep, and just having some sort of nightmare. My window was open, and I lived on the third story. As I felt the guy rush me or whatever, I heard a woman from the other side of the window call me name and say, "Hey, you need to stop." And he was gone. Didn't feel like he was there. Didn't see anyone. But I was scared to death. Of course, I checked the window. As unreasonable as it was that someone would just be floating on by it, there was nothing. It could have been a nightmare. But to this day, I remember being somewhat awake, and even if it was, it disturbed the hell out of me. When I was 19, I had a full-size bed and 2 pillows. My closet had those accordion-style doors on them. I always made sure they were closed before I went to sleep at night. One night, I woke up when I heard a noise. I was on the side of the bed closest to the wall, facing the wall. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see the closet doors were open. I started to sit up when I felt the covers pulled tight from behind me, like someone or something was climbing onto the covers. I knew whatever it was had just come from within my closet. I've seen enough horror movies to know that as long as you don't see the undead beast with maggots dripping from its eye sockets, it won't eat you. So I put my head back on the pillow and just said, "Good night," closed my eyes tightly and willed myself back to sleep. When I woke in the morning, my closet doors were closed, but there was the impression on the bed and the pillow next to me that looked like someone had been laying there. This went on every night for about a year. Then one night, a friend of mine stayed the night. I never told him about this thing in the closet. He slept on the floor next to the bed that night, but he used the pillow from the side of the bed, the thing from the closet always used. It's important here to note that my friend has a history of sleepwalking. About 1:30, I woke up and saw the silhouette of my friend standing at the foot of my bed. I groggily told him to lay back down and go to sleep. Then I noticed the closet doors were open, and my friend was still asleep, laying on the floor next to the bed. Apparently the thing from the closet really enjoyed sleeping on that pillow. I apologized and told it that my friend was using it tonight, and there was nothing that could be done. The silhouette slowly faded away into nothing, and I laid back down and went to sleep. In the morning, the closet doors were closed again. I told my friend what happened the next morning, and he freaked. From then on, whenever he came over, he brought his own pillow, but the closet doors never opened again at night. My home is extremely active, if you catch my drift. I get a lot of creepy feelings. One time, home alone, I was in the living room watching TV, and a movement catches my eye. I look up and see this face, pure white, bald, blue eyes, peeking around the door frame from the dining room at me. It was a child size, and I about shiz my pants. I got up, grabbed the remote. Any kind of weapon is better than no weapon, am I right? And walked towards it slowly. It follows me with its eyes tilting its head up as I got closer, and it grinned, slowly, showing its tiny pointed teeth, and its giggle was that of a chime. It was unnerving, and at that point I was rooted right where I stood. It then promptly disappeared. I slowly backed up and sat back down and never saw it again. Knock on wood. Other than that, I usually hear whispers and soft laughter from my dining room at night time when I am turning off everything and locking up. They quiet down when I go into the living room, but it is slightly creepy. Not necessarily creepy, but I was sitting in my living room watching TV. The living room has huge bay windows looking into the backyard that we keep the blinds up on to let sunlight in. It's pitch black out there, but I'm not thinking of anything scary. Suddenly, I hear a loud bang from my backyard, and the motion sensitive lights come on. Went to my room, locked the door, and stayed there. Next morning, I went out to look, and there was nothing different about my yard. My significant other and I live in a small house together in the suburbs of a nice town. On this particular afternoon, I'm in our bedroom getting ready when I hear laughter coming from our living room. "What's so funny?" I yell out to him. He mumbles something inaudibly and starts laughing again. "I can't hear you!" I exclaim, and I quickly walk down the hallway into the living room. I'm greeted with an empty couch, and that's when I realize that my boyfriend is at work. My sister and I were watching a movie pretty late at night. I was about 15 and she was 13. We had 4 dogs, 3 small ones and aggressive lab chow mix. In his defense, the only people he's ever lunged at were strangers. He's also particularly blind in both eyes. They wouldn't stop barking at the entryway. From the living room, you can see through the little breakfast nook in the kitchen. Things were getting uneasy. We told the dogs to be quiet several times. Our mum is a complete horror if she's woken up. Out of fear of our mum finding us up at 2 a.m., we tried to keep the dogs quiet, but they persisted. They kept on like this for about 2 minutes, and then they just stopped. There was silence, aside from Brutus, hiding behind my legs and whimpering. Our other dogs are hiding, and about that time I look over at the entryway and see the figure of a man walk across the entryway. Freaked me right the F out. My sister didn't see it. At first I thought it was my dad because the entryway leads directly to my parents' bedroom. The door makes a super loud noise when it's open, and there wasn't a sound made when he walked across. I never saw the shadow man again in that house, but I refused to go into my parents' room. Asleep in bed, maybe 3 a.m., I wake up suddenly to the sound of the gate opening. It leads from the side yard to the backyard, and it has very distinctive squeak. And it's right outside my window, probably 6 feet from my head. I lie there for about another 30 seconds, silently straining my ears to see if someone has really just gone into my backyard. At this point, I hear a huge effing crash from the backyard. I don't know what's going on, but whoever is back there has just done something major. I jump out of bed, grab the gun, and bolt to the back door. Turn on the lights, and I see a giant tree limb has fallen out of a dying tree onto my fence, breaking part of it. The same wind that blew open the gate must have finished the limb off. I sit up for another half hour, waiting for my heart rate to slow down, and I go back to sleep. I live in an apartment with my girlfriend, and I was sleeping, as one often does. I don't remember if what I was dreaming. I rarely remember, but I woke suddenly and found myself staring at the ceiling. We both have clocks that illuminate the room, so it's not pitch black. Also, the bedroom door is open into the living room. There's a street light outside and light sneaks in that way too. So I wake up and I'm looking at the ceiling and regain my bearings. I wear glasses normally, so without them I'm not totally blind, but I lose detail while looking at any distance. I decide I need some water, so I go to get up, but find myself pinned to the bed. I think my legs, arms, entire body is asleep, so I start moving some more. Well, trying to move some more. I'm utterly and completely unable to move. I start to freak out. I can move my head just a little bit, but my arms and legs don't respond. I can't sit up. I can't move. I try to keep cool and not lose it. Did I have an aneurysm while sleeping? Is this a dream? Can I make enough noise to wake my girlfriend up, or will I lie like this until morning? It's during this moment that I hear them. A low, snarling talk just outside the door. I can't understand what they're saying, but it's about me. It's about coming to get me while I'm paralyzed. I think I can see their fingers curl around the door frame. Is that one of them peeking in? It's too dark, I can't see, but I can hear them. They are small boogers, all gnarled and sharp-teethed. The grumbling continues. I wish I could understand what they're saying. Why haven't they come in yet? They must know how utterly helpless we are. Can I wake up the girlfriend without letting them know I'm awake? Slowly, their sound fades. They give up and leave. I don't hear them go, but I know they're gone. I'm still freaked the hell out, but I'm safe. After a few moments, I realize I can move again. I don't move for a long while. I finally get up and peek around the corner in the room. I do a circuit around the apartment, but find no sign of them. Eventually, I go back to sleep, but not for a long time. I, of course, have no rational explanation for all of this. When my mom was younger, let's say about 7 or 8, she and her sister were home alone one night. They were sitting on the couch in the living room watching television, and my mom hears somebody whisper her name. She looks at her sister and says, "It sounded like mom just whispered my name. Is she home?" Her sister gets really pale and says she's heard a name as well, but their parents were both at work. Then out of nowhere, an old hubcap they had hanging on their wall as a decoration fell off the wall and slowly rolled in front of them, across the room, and finally hit the other wall and fell over on its side. They ran outside and waited in the driveway until their parents came home. Creepy, but not that interesting. Nothing has happened to me, thank God. The way my cat acts sometimes freaks me out more than anything that ever happened to me home alone. He just stares long into space and then freaks out of nowhere and hauls us out of the room. It's scary. Since I've read stuff that says animals see more than we do, aka there might be something invisible to me in my house that's making me and my normally unfazed cat freak out like it's doomsday. Also, when I'm home alone, I feel like I'm being watched. There's this sense of paranoia that just coils in my guts and makes me too afraid to move. One night, I was laying on my bed trying to fall asleep. I sometimes lay for 2 hours or so before I actually sleep, when my body was pulled to the foot of the bed, as in I was dragged by my feet to the edge and stopped there. This happened a few times that night when I readjusted myself. I usually sleep on one side of my bed, closest to the wall and facing it, but one night I was on the other side, facing out to my room. Now, I didn't see anything, but I felt my body, and the side of my bed I was on raised up, as if something lay down on my usual spot. It would have to be an extremely large something in order to do that. To hell with looking at what was there. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen.
Well, my children, I thank you all for listening. I hope these stories, these short and sweet, yet scary stories, frightened you and terrified you, because I love the taste of fear. I'll see you again very soon. So until then, love the darkness as it always follows.